Hello and welcome to episode 52. What the heck, 52? Can't believe it. Property Mastermind podcast with Hilary Sexton. And today's solo episode, did one a few weeks back, had quite a big response to that. I know everybody loves it when I talk with Bob and we talk property development, but property development is a confidence game. Confidence is my specialty. I hope today to give you I'm going to give you some tips and some strategies that you can use to make yourself more confident and progress in your property journey just like you would like to. So let's jump into episode 52, where I'm going to be talking about the principles of harvest. Let's jump on in. Hey, welcome to episode 52. As usual, giving away a copy of Property Millionaires Exposed. Solo episode today with me, talking about the principles of harvest and really about how you can progress and make sure you're doing a great job with your property developing journey. You know, who am I giving this to today? Well, today this goes out to Tia Peaver. Tia, this will be in the mail to you. Tia just joined us, her and her husband Craig. I hope you'll read us. But anyway, this will be in the post this afternoon and you will get it soon. And I know you'll enjoy it. Obviously, page 121 is where Bob talks about property developing. But this book has a lot of different property theories on how people perceive or their experience with how property has made them or been a good journey for them. So whether it's developing, whether it's there's tons of different ways, whatever they do. So if you'd like a copy of this, remember to comment favourably, jump on YouTube to do that, give us a 5-star raving review on Apple, and you also remember to share this with one of your friends. If you have somebody who's into property development and you think they might like to listen to our podcast or teach them how to set them up, maybe that's what some people need. I know a lot of people don't even know how to do that, set up a podcast. But anyway, let's move forward. If you'd like to win a copy, this week goes to Tia and her husband Craig. They can share it. But let's talk about, before we get started, let's talk about property development. And Bob and I talk often, and his number one thing is property development is a confidence game. And the thing with confidence, how do you make yourself more confident? That's the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 question, isn't it? Like, how do you become more confident in something that you're doing? And I know, working with people regularly one-on-one, I know I can instill confidence in people, because when somebody tells you, looks at you in the eye and says, I know you can do this. Like, you can do this. This is possible for you. The only thing stopping you are those seeds of doubt, are that fear of moving forward. So the fear that you might fail, the fear that you might lose money, the fear that you might be, it's embarrassing failure. So what can we do to eliminate that fear? Because it's the fear that stops us moving forward, isn't it? It's the fear that, so what we do is, when we don't move forward because we're lacking confidence due to having some fear, is we give it reasons, and I always do reasons like, the double finger out the side, reasons to me. Reasons are just our excuses, and they are all because we're afraid. And I'll put my hand up. My number one reason that I use, which is my reason for fear, my reason I'm not taking action on a particular thing, is I always use the too busy one. And so if you're one of those people like me, do you use that one? Do you use the whole, I'm actually too busy right now so to do that? So if that's one of your reasons, how, be honest with yourself. What are you afraid of? What are you not wanting to do to move forward? And often that is followed by a not knowing what to do next. And that, when somebody signs up with us, especially with our mentoring program, their first question is, so what do I do? Like, where do I even start? And that's a common question that we get. What do I actually do first? What is my first move? Hilary, what do I do? The chicken or the egg? Do I look for a site? Do I find out money? How do I know what site to look for? How do I find out how much money I need? There are so many questions. So often when we don't know what our first move is or our next move is, we don't take any actions, and we start using "I'm too busy" because it might require having to learn something, or we don't know where to go and learn what it is, or what our next step is. So are you using any of those and finding yourself not moving forward? And I'm even talking to the people that could currently be developing. Like, are you developing and thinking to yourself, I want to lift this up. I want to do more. I want to, do more than one development, or I did one 3 years ago, and I want to do a 4-pack or a 6 or 7 or 8 or townhouses. You want to change what you did to something a little bit more substantial. And if that's the case, it's in the back of your mind somewhere, but you haven't given it a date. You haven't sort of set something concrete in place, and maybe you're just a little bit afraid to get started, or you've got something stopping you. Be aware as well, another thing that stops us can be that procrastination. We want to, but we procrastinate often because it's not perfect. Because right now it's not perfect. Trust me, you don't have enough money. Trust me, you are too busy. Trust me, you should wait till later in life. Trust me, you're not smart enough. Trust me, all of that is waffle. All of that is changeable. It will never be perfect. Life is never perfect. You have to do things as we go. You can't wait until something is, because there you go, perfect. Yeah, you can't wait until something is done and then do you know what I mean? Are you with me on this? Because it's a journey, not a destination. You're not going to one point. On your journey of property development is life, or in life, there is a property development journey, like there is a health journey, like there is a relationship journey, like there is a family journey. You've got many journeys running at the same time. So the key with property development is, if it feels a little bit scary, you can often feel like putting it off. And the key is to not put it off. The key is to find ways to think, I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to do property development. I had a conversation with somebody. We do get this. I had somebody in the last week sent me an email actually, and they inquired about we ran an online 3-day workshop last weekend, which was fantastic. It is fantastic, and anyone who buys our bundle still gets to come to a live workshop, so it's such a bonus to have that information twice. But Bob is such a good presenter and good teacher, and it's not sort of just run looking at a Zoom camera, it's quite dynamic. But somebody emailed back and said, they'd like to come, but they can't afford it because they're getting into their first development. And Bob said, oh my goodness, so they can't afford to come to a workshop, but they're doing their first development. Whoa, let's look at that, because knowledge is not only power. Knowledge will save us from many pitfalls and from many potential problems. And how can you know where to start or what to do if you're going to... It's not like you're putting together a kit set playhouse in the backyard for your kids where you are, knocking together and you're following a plan. It's a little bit different to that, as in there are things you need to look out for. And so to get an email back from somebody saying that they couldn't afford to do the online course because they were hoping to do their first development, Bob was like, oh no, we wish you luck. That's kind of all we say is we wish you luck. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you about the principles of harvest. And I've got some paper here because it was really exciting. I heard this last night when I went to Toastmasters, and I actually won what did I win last night? I love Toastmasters. I won table topics actually last night, impromptu speaking. It's a very cool thing to do if you're into public speaking or into becoming more confident that when you speak. I would really recommend going to join your local Toastmasters. But anyway, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to talk to you about the principles of harvest. And I had heard this before, but I really love the way the guy put it together. So the first principle is you can only expect to receive a harvest from the seed you've sown. Whoa. Does that make sense to you? You can only expect to receive a harvest from the seed or seeds you've sown. And let's relate that to property development. Most people do property development for a financial reward. They want money because they want to get time back. They don't want to work full time. They want to spend time with their family. They want to leave money behind. They want to have a better life. So it's about money. It's very often people do property development for money. It's the pinnacle of all property strategies. It is the fastest way to make a lot of money. And when we relate to you can only expect to receive a harvest from the seed you've sown, that's to all of you out there that want to do property development but aren't. If you're not taking the actions in doing a development, if you haven't bought one of our courses, if you haven't emailed me a question and said, Hillary, what do I do? What do I do? What would you recommend? If you're thinking about property development because you want to make more money for any reason, whether it's to leave something behind and, whatever, you have your own reasons, then you have to do a development because that is the seed that you are sowing. Let's take that back one. You have to be educated as well to know how to plant that seed or know what to do with that seed. But that's such a good analogy, isn't it? You can only expect to receive the harvest from the seed you've sown. So you might have all the dreams in the world and you want to, have a better life and you want to have better money, but until you start doing something about it, well, then it's not going to happen. So are you with me there? And are you agreeing? I'm thinking right now in our current mentoring program, we've just got people who have great visions, and I get excited because I know we're the start to many successful property developers' journey, that we get to work with them at the beginning. We get to work with them when they don't even know what to do, first of all. We are the people who are helping them with that initial seed. And then we often get to we get to see where they've gone to. We get to see how, the life change that they've been able to have. In fact, this morning it was actually last night, got an amazing text from John and Taz Spurrigan from Mela Developments. And I'm going to interview them probably next week or the week after, because they decided to get into property development and have made it their life. And they just sent a text saying, wow, haven't we come so far from that dinner we had together when they first joined our mentoring program? They flew up from Victoria and came for dinner with us because they wanted to do that. And we went out to the Storybridge Hotel, actually, to Dairy's restaurant. And I remember sitting there, and that was his text, haven't we come a long way since that dinner that night? Because now they do top-end style developments, just really cool. In fact, I'm going to put a link to their website below in this podcast and have a look at what they're doing. It's pretty cool stuff, and they have a few on the go, but they are full-time developing. And had they not planted that seed, they wouldn't be reaping that harvest right now. And I said, wow, you're living an amazing lifestyle. And he said, yes, they totally are. So how cool is that? So that is the first principle of harvest. And what do you think of it? It's a great principle, isn't it? Okay, let's look at the second principle of harvest and how that relates to property development. And this is one of my favorites, and I didn't realize it came from Charles Reed. I have heard this somewhere else, and it was written in 1814, which is way before most of our time, I'd say. But I've heard this somewhere else, and I didn't know that this was that old. The second principle is sow a thought, reap an act. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. Whoa, I'll read that again. Sow a thought, reap an act. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. So many books that we read now. I don't know if you're into reading. I certainly am. What's his name? Atomic Habits. That's basically that principle broken down. James Clear's Atomic Habits. But let's look at that. Sow a thought, reap an act. You have to be so careful about what you think, because you can talk yourself into something and you can talk yourself out of something. So if you would like to become a property developer, you have to start telling yourself that you can be a property developer. And trust me, I work with people buy our programs, people are involved with us. It is such a mixed bag. It is the craziest combination. It is not the average person is you probably think of 45-year-old male who comes from an engineering background. It's not. We have such a mix of people, and it's exciting to see the absolute mix of people get into property development. So you have to believe that you can. You have to think, I will be a property developer. I will do a property development this year, because the more you think about it, the more you're likely to act on it. And that's what it means. Sow a thought, reap an act. think about property developing, start acting toward it, listening to these podcasts, follow us on YouTube. If you haven't bought one of our programs, definitely. We've got our membership relaunching again soon. If that's what you wanted to, get into it a bit more slowly. But just remember that on the 18th of June, we're in Sydney talking about joint ventures. And the 25th of June, we are in Melbourne talking about joint ventures. That's a 3.5-hour event for $29. And it's not, we only charge that so people say when they're coming, they turn up, because we know how easy it is to say we'll come and not show. But if we do that, because so many people might not be able to attend, we might hit our quota, which we probably will. We did in Brisbane, so and we were able to let a couple of extras in, but yeah, that was at a maximum. So by sowing that thought, you start reaping that act. You start getting into or being around people, property development, start really engaging that fire, that desire from within, like feed it, fuel that fire, that passion, so you can have that thing that you want. Now, the second line was sow an act, reap a habit. Now, the more often you do that, sow the act, the more actions you take toward property development, the more times the more things you do. You come along to our event in Sydney or Melbourne over the next 2 weeks. In fact, next week we're also in Canberra talking about capital and capital raising. So that's next Thursday in Canberra. If you're interested in that, there'll be some links below about these events. But the more often that you start acting in a way around property development, the more it becomes your habit, the more it becomes something that you are doing consistently. So then it goes from sow a habit to reap a character. And this is where the confidence comes in. I so often have worked with people that say, I can't say I'm a property developer. I just feel like, how do I say that? I'm just doing my first development, or I haven't started yet. The more often you do that, the easier it is to say, I am a property developer, because you believe you are one. So I love saying it, because people naturally look at me and think I'm a hairdresser, I think. But when somebody says, what do you do? I love to say I'm a property developer. I always get you're a what? Like a double take on that one, because they don't look like your average property developer. But you don't have to, because what does your average property developer look like? They don't have to look like anything. It can look like you, trust me. So the more times you repeat those acts, the more it becomes a habit. The more time it becomes a habit, it becomes part of your character. You are a property developer. You will start being one. And then sow a character, become a property and reap a destiny. So sow a character, reap a destiny means by sowing that character of constant habits, from constant actions, from constant thoughts, then you will have the destiny you desire. When you look at it like that, how easy is that? You have to think about what it is that you want, become clear. Crikey, this is stuff I teach every day and I didn't even know it came from here. Then you have to act on it so regularly that that becomes your habit, your normal. And then you have to turn that habit into who you are, your character. You are a property developer. And what will that do? That will give you the destiny that you want. Oh my goodness, how cool is that? Okay, principle number 3 is you need to always protect your crop if you want to expect a harvest. What does that mean? How can you protect your crop? Well, there's varying ways for this. I'm thinking number 1, protection of your crop, because remember, it's about the seed, and it started with the thought. We get people around us like the dream stealers or the derailers who, for their own reasons, might think that you shouldn't do this, but it's something you really want. Or you've got a husband or a partner who wants you to do it later, which you don't seem to think will ever come. Or they don't want you to do it because they don't believe you can do it. Or, sometimes we're not all brought up the same. We're not all brought up in a can-do kind of lifestyle. So we tend to emulate how our parents were. So if you were brought up in a family where you just went and worked 9 to 5 and that was your normal and that's what you have an expectation of, then often that can be something that you believe is how you should be. So when it comes to protecting your crop, if you're with somebody who can't see your vision, who can't see that you know that this is the answer for you, that you know that you can do property developing, well, you need to find a way that you can explain that to them, or have a way of not hearing what they say, of disconnecting from the maybe put a shield up from the words or whatever it is, so you're not affected, because you need to protect your harvest, protect your dream, protect your seed, so you can plant it and act on it and become successful on it and grow that big tree. So where else might your harvest or your crop need protecting? Even in simple ways, like by not jumping in, by understanding, like honestly, by learning what you need to know, not Googling it, propertymastermind.com.au, I kid you not, it would be the best property development course. In fact, so many people say that. It is such a good course. Bob is very detailed and makes it seem simple because he breaks it right down. So it's not too overwhelming. You need to understand what you need to do, and that is a type of protection. Like, you don't go into a law exam having Googled up a few, legal cases. You've studied, and you do need to do some study for development. You do need to understand what you need to do. How else can you protect your harvest or protect your crop? Another thing that could be a form of protection would be by having the right structures set up. When it comes to your business, when it comes to tax, when it comes to all of that financial or the back end paperwork stuff, that does need protecting. It needs to be done properly. So by jumping in, and that again comes from a lack of knowledge or a lack of not actually knowing that is vital, that's one of the important ones. So that's part of the protection. And there are probably many other things, but when it comes to as far as what I'm talking about, this is front end stuff initially. Having a good structure is vital, and having a good property accountant, not your normal accountant, you're just your property accountant who understands property and how to set it up. That stuff is very much part of your protection. So protect yourself about what's going on up here, protecting yourself in, legally as well, like definitely legally, and protecting yourself from potential dream stealers, because they're the people that will modify the thoughts that were initially quite good, that cause the acts, and it's the acts that cause the habits, and it's the acts that it's the habits that will create that character, which is becomes your destiny, which is you being a property developer and being very successful. Now, I suppose I'm going to finish off here. The last podcast I did alone, I talked about those 3 things you need to do, and it was great having that. Everybody, thank you for the comments. Today I'm going to finish with 2 questions, and I'd like you to think about them. And I do appreciate when you email in, so do email me. It's exciting, and all those other things, comment and share and love and like and all that. But I'm going to ask you, have you planted enough crops, planted enough seeds right now in life that you won't be disappointed for the rocking chair test? And you remember I often talk about the rocking chair test, that you get one shot at this, and life's not a journey. Life is a journey, Life's a journey, not a destination. It's about living and experiencing and doing. And are you living your best life? In fact, that was what that text that came back that I referred to with John and Taz. It was, we're living our best life. Oh, hand on heart, that gives me goosebumps. That we have the privilege of being part of that journey for them is just so exciting. So are you living your best life right now? Or is there a lot of ho-hum going on? And I realize sometimes we have those days that aren't great. But is it your best life? Or can you honestly put a mirror up to yourself and say, hey, you need to do this better? Does that need to happen for you? And my second question is, with the crops that you have sown, with those crops that you have, are you nurturing them? Are you nurturing your crops to get the harvest that you need? So you're not going to be disappointed at the end, at harvest time. So they're the 2 questions I leave you with. Have you planted enough crops? And are you nurturing your crops to make sure that at harvest time you have a fantastic harvest? So there you go. There's the 3 principles of harvest. I hope you got something from that, as they all relate to property development. I've enjoyed bringing you this solo episode. Tia, the book's on its way to you in the post today. And I look forward to next week. I'm thinking the podcast might be the interview with John Spurgeon and John and Taz, and talking through how it's been for them to become property developers. But anyway, that's it from me this week, or it'll be Bob and I next week. So I will catch you then, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you soon.